Ladies and gentlemen, units, Sydney, agent of 30 years. I can see the perfect storm arising, coming. I'm going to tell you all about it right now. Stay tuned. Billy, the old man, the young man's body. How are you?
Good morning, property doctor. We're delving into a bit of a heated topic this morning.
Look, I think you're going to expect the real estate agents to be all positive, but we don't want to do that. But we want to arm you with the information, the facts on a typical unit suburb like DY that you can apply to, any area of Sydney that has units, and then make an informed decision.
Oh, you cut up for a sec, and then make an informed
Decision.
Absolutely. And look, we're witnessing a bit of a storm brewing behind the scenes, and I don't think people, the average mum and dad and consumer, will see it until it's smack bang hit you in the face. And often by that time, it's too late.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Like, you've got a real life working example with a client of yours. You had a discussion last night. Can you tell me how that went?
yeah, so we were sitting around the coffee table last night, just settled his property. So that's the day you get your money exchanged and keys are handed over. And it's then like, what's next? You don't want to leave yourself out of the market for too long. I think selling a property and repositioning is genius, but it's also then having that plan lined up for what comes next. Whether it be a homeowner selling and trying to get back into the market to live in, that often happens simultaneously. And the same for an investor. Quite often they're taking funds out of a property, a bit of equity, and then moving it into something else. And this sale was a one-bedroom apartment in DY, sold for 750,000 in an older 1970s style block
Yeah.
where it was positioned on the top floor. It rented really well because it was on the beach side of DY. They were probably getting around 650 a week for their rent, but it was a hard conversation because it was like, I've owned the property for 3 years, and by the time I take out my Stride Water Council, by the time I take out my interest repayments, there's not been much profit in it for me. Like, he bought it for 680 and he sold it for 750. He
Mm.
bought it for 630, I think, and sold it for 750. So there was a bit of money in there, but by the time you apply, stamp duty, capital gains tax, because it wasn't a principal place of residence either, there just wasn't much in it. And so I think that experience put a little bit of a dampener on his property investing experience, because he heard the stories of buying in Queensland, buying in Western Sydney, and big profit. So his question to me was, why would I buy another strata title apartment? I just don't see the value.
So, long-term horizon for units, DY's property, Northern Beaches, Sydney. What do you think?
I said, the funny thing is, I've sold 3 properties in the last 3 weeks, or I've had 3 offers accepted in the last 3 weeks, sorry. And every property seems to have followed the same trend. It's been a hard 3 years. People bought in 2021 and 2022 where they either had cheap lending, 2% interest rates, which made it quite affordable to extend themselves that little bit further, or they bought in a market where it was artificially sort of propped up by that, and then it started to slow down a little bit. So the last 3 years people have made money to cover costs, but certainly not big profits. And we took his example, multiplied that 3 times over a purchase price to another property we had offer accepted, and funny enough, the numbers were identical, exactly the same. So I think that
Okay.
speaks volumes.
So people say to us, don't want to buy a unit, don't want to buy in a big block, don't want to buy in DY. What do you say about that?
I say here's the perfect storm that's brewing, and we're starting to really feel it now. The clouds are on us. So what I'm finding is um, properties that are renting well for an investor are properties that are often a little bit more modern internally, or oh, sorry, yeah, buildings that are often that little bit more modern internally, or um, a little bit more modern generally, where they got lift access, things like that, secure parking. That's where the premium rents are being felt. But to take a step back, the other question I had yesterday was, why would I buy in DY where there's going to be so many more apartments introduced? And I said, well, you've got to look at the vacancy rates to begin with. There's over 100,000 private dwellings on the northern beaches, and right now on realestate.com, the largest online portal, there's 434 properties for rent.
Interesting. Very
Then
interesting. So
it's a
what's that
scary
like?
low.
Is that what's that like historically? Is that a lot of property or not a lot of property?
That's a scary low number. It often sits anywhere from double to maybe triple that.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And
Then
and,
pulled it back
and
to
I think
DY.
say that again.
We then pulled it back to DY, where there's over 11,000 private dwellings in DY. A lot of them are apartments, and there's 36 properties for rent in DY at all prices. So the introduction of new stock is inevitable. It has to be done, but you're always going to have that point of difference because the majority of properties in DY, particularly, were built in the 1970s through to 1990s. That's when the mass development was done for the classic standard block of 12, block of 24, 3 stories with stairs, and maybe a lock-up garage if you're lucky. None of them had the other benefits of a new building.
Because I think what people don't realize is it's literally a building freeze, not a building frenzy at the moment. And what does that mean to property values? You've got interest rates on the way down. You've
Not
got
fact.
rent fact. You've got rents on the way up in a big way. Um, and I think at the moment, you've got this all-time low um, of property stock. When you look at DY fundamentally, the glut of DY that people would think it is, you've got 9,600 units, of which 95% of those units were delivered in the 70s and the 60s,
Mm,
and only we've gone from 8,800 units to 9,600 units over maybe 15 years. It's not changing much at all. So, and we're fortunate. We're one of the only agents out of 180 real estate agents on the Northern Beaches that does a lot of developments with developers, DA sites. And one thing that we're really seeing is nothing stacks up. Even with the low to medium density stuff that's coming, I haven't seen any sales in the last 3 months off the back of it where people are utilizing it. So it's like, okay, well, we're still going to be a low in stock. Building costs are not going down; they're going up. Compliance is not getting less; it's getting harder.
mm.
So it's the perfect storm to actually buy in a suburb like DY. And Billy, you've got a saying of the in terms of capital growth. How does that go?
Yeah, supply is the enemy of capital growth.
Right. So if supply is going to be so tight, so hard, that is just the perfect storm. Rents are going up, interest rates are going down. We weathered rates tripling, and it didn't erode property values. Think about it. The market should have shit itself, and it did not. So it's like, man, well, if the rates just tripled and we didn't go down, imagine when rates go down. And they're really talking about rates going down, not a little bit, not a quarter, a lot.
This was handpicked from Lisa Novak's social media. We've got a snapshot of the interest rate forecast from the big four banks. 3 to 5 cuts is what they're estimating, and that would
Right.
change cash rate from 4.1% to anything as low as 2.6% and somewhere in the middle there. So it's really interesting. That's what the money markets are saying. That's the sense of direction interest rates are going. We know where rents are going. We're seeing it more and more, but that's that's in a really fortunate position where we manage 2,000 properties. To the average person, you just, it's impossible. The realestate.com does not report the trends of what tenants want in their next home, but it is shifting towards something that's a little bit newer. It's got a second bathroom. It's got car space, extra car space, storage cages. The older buildings just weren't built like that. So that's where the premium yields are being held. That's as close to sort of cash flow even I can find on Northern Beaches property. People are always looking for that cash flow positive, and quite often negative gearing's been so heavily relied on for the investor. That's the closest I can find, and I reckon we're going to see a perfect shift towards newer apartments in the next 12-24 months. And if you can buy in a project that's being delivered in the next 12 to 24 months, you've got exposure to that full amount in the market, but you only put your 10% deposit down. And the other thing that's pretty impressive here, where was I going? Lost my train of thought.
I'm sure it'll
Gone.
come back to you, but there's some
Gone.
questions there. Zach Constantinu has asked, is there an uptick in approvals for redevelopment of aging stock?
Not really. I haven't seen it. That's what I was going to say, though, where I lost my train of thought. You got to look at the replacement cost. Look at what it costs to buy brand new, then look at what it costs to buy established and renovate the whole thing to the same standards. Compare apples for apples. Just buy
Yep.
in the same location, and
Yeah.
it's getting harder and harder to do. It really is. You look at kitchens and bathrooms. There's, if you're doing one of each, there's at least 50 grand there. Add an extra bathroom, put another 20-30 on top. And then you start doing flooring, lighting, appliances. For a 2-bedroom apartment, you're blowing out over 100 grand easy. And that's the 10% deposit to buy brand new.
There you go. So, bottom line is, I think it is an exceptionally good time to be buying for first home buyers, for investors, for apartments in DY. I haven't seen a better time in 30 years. It is the perfect storm. And so, go for it. Lisa Novak says more and more people want air conditioning too and are happy to pay. I think the point is they want quality with this
Mhm.
stuff. So they want a night that even if they're in a 70s apartment, they want to have it with all the specs on it. But Billy, it's the time to go, go, go for anyone that's out there. And if you need help from us, call us, sit down with us. I've got a family of 5 coming to sit down with me on Thursday. The kids are all first home buyers, and mum and dad just want me to give the kids a masterclass in 101 of buying property. We're more than ready, willing, and able to have these chats with people. We're advocates of property. That's what we do.
Yeah, I back that. And you've only got to look at what houses have done in growth for the last 10 years. It's well outperformed the strata class. So going back to my client's conversation yesterday, the last 3 years has been hard. It's been hard across the board. It's not just been his property, it's been, I think, the market in general. But watch what happens when these rates come down. It's the perfect
Incredible.
storm.
Have a great day, everyone. Billy, I'm a bit conscious now about what you told me the other day. When I've been going like this while I've been talking to you.
Yes, we had a
We lost a listing.
what would you call it? We had a body language lesson.
Constructive feedback. Client said they're not going to use us because Mark was touching his face, and when you touch your face, that means that you're trying to hide something.
It
We're
wasn't
not
quite it wasn't
not
quite framed up like that, but it
not
was an
telling the
interesting
truth. I
body
was
language
affected.
lesson. Don't let it bother you. Don't change a thing.
They're lost, mate. They're lost. Take care.
Have a good day.
All right. See you, right.